Hey everybody, today I'm going to be working on replacing my existing router plate and router holder with a new router lift that I got from Rockler. I had an email promotion sent to me from Rockler that said that I could get any one item 20% off. I've been wanting to do this upgrade for quite a while because underneath this plate, as you'll see later on in the video, all I'm using is the stock collar for the router, and I have to get in and twist it by hand to manipulate it up and down, and it's worked great for a number of years, but it's just not what I want going forward. I want something with a little bit more precision in the adjustment, a little bit easier to change bits and blades and stuff like that. So I decided to go with this. It's the SL router lift from Rockler. I really like Rockler products. This entire router table pretty much is Rockler products. I got it as a kit where I got the faceplate, the fence, the tabletop, and the legs all in one kit. It was a great deal. Rockler frequently runs deals like that during their Router Mania or other sales that they run or promotions that they run. So if you don't have a router table and you would like to get one, I would suggest looking at the Rockler products. I've used these a lot. They're, I think, a great set of products. They've got a good entry level for, you know, your average woodworker, your average hobbyist. With this video, I'd like to go through showing you how I pull out my existing router, set up the router into the router lift, and put it into the table and give it a couple of test cuts. Before you go and buy this, one thing I would recommend you do is it is not compatible with every single router. There are a number of different routers that it is compatible with. I use the Porter Cable 690 series routers for my router table. That was part of the decision and why I got this particular router lift, is that it's compatible with my style of router that I already have two of. And so before you just go out and buy the lift, make sure it's compatible with the router that you have. With that, I'm just going to cut over to showing you the process of me taking out my existing router and putting this one into the lift. Hopefully it goes easily. It should be a quick swap. We'll do a couple of test cuts and see how it goes. All right, here we go. So to begin this process, I need to remove the old router and take the old router collar off of the existing router plate, which is not too complicated. It's just a couple of screws. So once I get that removed, then I am able to unscrew the router plate and get it out of the way. Move some stuff off the bench here. So now I'm getting into the new router lift. Clean this up a bit. Rockler did an excellent job packing the lift. There is a ton of nice heavy cardboard supporting it, and so it was definitely well protected during shipping. So once I get a good look at it here, the thing that I failed to do initially is that there are some small nubs on the outside of the router that are used in the track that you see that spirals into the router collar that came with the router. I had to line it up. There's some small indentations that you can see on the router lift itself. I had to line those nubs up so that they went through those. And then I positioned the router, or I should say I clocked the router so that the power switch will be facing the door of the cabinet below. It took some doing to kind of figure out just how deep I need to seat the router into the lift. I wasn't really sure on this because when it's bottomed out, it looked like it was in too much. So a quick read through the instructions, and I decided to pull it back out a little bit. You want both rings on the router lift to be in contact with the main body of the router. And so I'm just kind of checking some clearances, and then once I had another chance to look at it, I decided I needed to put it down a little bit further so that I could maximize the capacity of the lift, but also so that it can be a little bit easier to change out the router bits when the lift is at the full height of its potential lift. So once I got that done, I tightened up the set screw to make sure that it was nice and firmly clamped in place, and then it was a matter of just testing to make sure I could change the router bits easily. Do some last minute checks, make sure that the body of the router does not interfere with the lever that's used to pop out the snap ring. And with that, the plate is pretty much ready with the router installed. I did a quick test to make sure that the resistance of the lifting mechanism wasn't too stiff. And now I'm going through and I'm trying to level the router plate as best I can to the level of the tabletop, so that as you push your wood across, it won't catch on any of the edges, either on the plate or on the table edge. And I got it as best I could, just with a couple of tests, but as you'll see later in the video, I didn't quite get it well enough on the left-hand side, so I ended up having to make another couple of adjustments later on. With that complete, I tested the fit of the snap ring, and then there was just 2 screws that would hold the router plate down to the top of the table. Okay, that went pretty easy. It probably would have gone a little bit easier if I had read the instructions first before I started setting it up. But overall, it's pretty straightforward. I gotta say, first impressions, I am really liking it. I haven't even turned on my router yet, but what I can tell is that I'm really gonna like this snap lock system for these collars. I am definitely going to be ordering a full set of the collars. It's really nice just to be able to pop that up. The old system, you had to remove 3 screws, find the next ring, and put those screws back in. And there's always the chance that those screws would get lost or damaged, or you'd cross thread something. So this system is pretty neat. I have to say, kudos to Rockler for thinking that up. I really like that the wheel here increments down to 1/10 of a 64th. I'm not going to attempt to tell you what that is, but a 64th is pretty small increments. So being able to adjust it just a quarter turn to get a 64th change is nice. My only objection is, if you want to reset this for whatever reason to back to 0, if you're going to be doing something, it is a bit tricky to get it set back to 0. And I imagine that over time, as this gets clogged with sawdust, it's going to get more tricky to swivel it and pivot it. But I think this is a great upgrade. As you can see, I've got pretty much everything on this table is Rockler except for the speed adjustment there. That's a Harbor Freight speed adjustment. I don't yet have a paddle switch for this. That's definitely on the list to get. I'll probably get that from Rockler as well, so that I'm not having to reach inside the cabinet that I made each time I'm trying to turn the router on and off. But for now, it'll work. Overall, this cabinet's great. I've put some additions onto it. I've put some pegboard on the sides. I added, it only took a few minutes, but I added a series of aluminum angle metal stock, I guess is what you'd say, to the sides. I had to drill these holes. I don't think they were already there, but it wasn't a real big deal to just drill those out and set this up so I could put plywood in. The bottom was already set up for a piece of plywood, so I was able to get it in there without any trouble, but I did add this, and then I built this. You can also buy these cabinets from Rockler directly. It just isn't as an exercise in trying to do something myself. I just made my own. But I did get it set up for some dust collection out the back. So the dust collection in my cabinet doesn't work great, but it's better than nothing. But with that, I think I'm going to do a couple of test cuts, see how it works out. And I'm overall, I think I'm going to be really happy with this upgrade. It's nice to be able to adjust your router bits to a real fine level so that you can, if you get some burn marks, you can just click it up just a little bit, just a couple of 1/10 of a 64th, and then take another pass and it'll get rid of those burn marks maybe, or, it's just nice to have that flexibility on this. So, and then I'm not crawling under and trying to reach my hands into this little tiny cabinet to try and move my router up and down. So yeah, very happy overall. Rockler, I think you did a great job. And so if you'd like to support this channel in the future, we would certainly welcome that. I do use a lot of Rockler products. If you've not gone to Rockler to check them out, they do have an excellent line of different products. They have their own line of router bits, all reasonably priced. So yeah, check them out, rockler.com. So with that, yeah, I'm gonna give this thing a couple of tests. So before I start using this new router lift on a project that I've got in the shop, I wanted to test it out on a piece of scrap wood that I had laying around. So I put in a roundover bit, and you can see how easy it is to use the snap ring and the height adjustment for the bit so that I can get it at least initially set up. And then I set up the fence to make it so that I've got the bit cutting about where I want it to. And on my initial first pass here, you'll see after I get it powered up, I had a little bit of a problem. It stopped about halfway through the cut because I didn't have the router plate set exactly even with the top of the table. It was down a little bit, so it was stopping the wood from going forward. But with a quick adjustment to the adjustment screws underneath, I was able to get it set, and then I was able to successfully complete the test cut. And then I did a couple more adjustments on the height of the bit to get it right where I wanted it in terms of the final cut, which is what I do anytime I'm working on a project. I'll test on a piece of scrap first to make sure that it's cutting exactly the way I want. Here's a quick demonstration of using the support peg that came with the router faceplate so that you can use it if you're doing some work independent of the fence. All right. Final thoughts on this are that it's going to be a great product for me. For the price point, it was right up my alley as a hobbyist, and about the only thing that I really need to work on is that I need to work on getting this flushed up a bit more with the tabletop. That's just going to take a bit more time to kind of fuss with and make sure that I get it all kind of flush so that the wood's not catching as it's going across. And the other thing is the raising and lowering level. I want it handy to the table, but I don't want it on the table. So I've got to find a place or a way maybe to build a mill mounting structure somewhere along here so that I can just quickly use this and then put it away and then use it again without having to like take it back and forth to a different cabinet or a drawer or anything like that. So with that, I appreciate everyone watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. Please like and subscribe. I'm going to probably be doing more tool tips and tool changes and stuff like this in the future. So be on the lookout for that. More projects coming up that we're both, Ellie and I are going to be working on. So please subscribe if you want to see more of what we're up to. And with that, later taters. Also in the future, I probably need to tackle this mess. I've got a lot of accessories and bits and different things I need to organize. So yeah, future work.